So as we discussed yesterday, we will understand the concepts of security groups. So right in front of you is a small visual which has some notes in it. I request you to take a screenshot of it, or you can write them down as well, whichever way you feel convenient. Now, there are two primary types of security groups. One is a user-based and the other one is a role-based. And the complete understanding of these groups is in the name of it, user-based, role-based. So if we start by understanding the one on the left, and why I say that these are the two primary groups delivered by Workday, because there is a big list of groups that Workday delivers, which already has some said security, which you can just use out of the box. What I mean by using out of the box is you can just start using them. You don't have to do anything. And you also have the ability to change them. It's similar to business process. You can use those default definitions out of the box, but you can modify them as well. Same with these security groups. You can use them straight out of the box, but you can also modify them. So if I talk about the user-based, it says it's completely dependent on the user. It stays with the user. Okay, keep that in mind. So with that, let's go through the bullet points that we have. The first one being it is unconstrained, unrestricted, which directly tells us that this is a tenant-wide setup. Tenant-wide means it's unconstrained, which means that anyone who is a member of a user-based security group will have a tenant-wide access. So for example, if I'm an HR admin or a recruiting administrator, I will have access to everyone in the tenant. The primary reason for that is because I'll be involved in doing configurations. We add the members in the group and we are the pure administrators of the system. That is why we have tenant-wide access. We also have information to access CEO. So if you are given a user-based access, that means it's completely unconstrained. It's not like you only have access to one area of the US and not the other, or you only have access to one level of the management and not the others. You have access to everyone from top to bottom, bottom to top. That is what unconstrained is. And the purpose of unconstrained is for the administrators. Administrators are the primary members of your user-based group. Okay? And they are assigned to this group, though the task which we use is called assign users. But basically what that doing is it's adding members. Every time you do that, it's adding a member in the group, and you can remove them also. Now, let's say if this user, if I'm transferred from one location to another, my access still remains the same because now that is in the name, the user, because I'm the user, and wherever that user goes, they have that access. And let's say if I move to a different organization, then I'm no longer a member of this group. So this is what the purpose of user-based, and it's very, very easy even to create and to do the configuration of it. Okay, so we'll do a quick configuration of user-based first. Tenant-wide means, see, if your company has a lot of child companies as well, and all of that is in the same tenant, and if you're given a recruiting admin access, you will have that access for all those companies, whether it's a parent company or a child company. But if you're leaving one organization, what I mean by that is, let's say if you're moving from Facebook to VMware, then you won't have that access. Okay, so let's do a quick creation of the group. So the task that we use is create security group. This is the task. And you can see there's a big list of groups here. And each type of group, for example, location membership is used to restrict members to access only a certain location. Job base is based on your job. Intersection and aggregation, we slightly touched upon it, but there's a lot that goes in those as well. You have, oh, this is a new one, Prism access. Segment base is another critical one, a little complex, but it's critical. So we'll focus on the user-based one first. These are the types of groups. As you can see here, it says type of group. We select the type of group based on our requirements. So this list is what they deliver. So I'll use another, because I already have a Velvet group here, so I'll use this. I'll use Kix Administrator. And all you have to do is populate this information, which is who will be administering the security group. And that would always be your security administrator. Now, this security administrator is a Workday delivered group, and it's also a user-based security group. It says manage all security related information regardless of organization. Example include creating and maintaining Workday accounts, establishing password rules, managing permissions, viewing security reports, role reports, approval authority for organization and system process. You can see the type is unconstrained. Whenever you see a user-based group, the context type will be unconstrained, which means it's a tenant-wide access. Now we are creating another group which will also be for administrators, but there won't be security administrators. They'll be like a system administrator. And there you go. Your group is now ready. And that's it. But we still have the security missing. Like, what will this group do? Does anyone have access to this? Not yet, right? So we use this related actions and this option, assign users, to add members to the group. Now, in this tenant, that is restricted, and even the tenant access that you have, you cannot even create the groups. So like I said, I'm using my personal GMS tenant to get this demo for you. So if I assign users, the page gets refreshed. So that's a restriction that is there to make sure that we avoid any red flags. So we won't be able to assign anyone, but at least let's work on the security part of it. So right now, this group is completely blank. There is no security given to it. Now, if I have to assign, I want this Kicks HR admin to have access to personal information, their contact information, their benefits information, their compensation information. So it will be a combination of different domains and business process. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll first look for, let's say we start with domain functional areas. We'll start using these reports, domain security policies for functional areas. Let's say you want to give them contact information. We'll search for that functional area. In this practice, we have already done. So we are just doing it again. You can see here, we have all these different domains. We want to give them emergency contact, home contact, name, work contact. We can give them that access. So let's say you want to give them emergency contact. You can either give them the access at the parent level, or if you want to be specific, that you only want to give them access to their home address within the emergency or work address within the emergency contacts, you can do that as well. But I'll prefer to give it the parent one so that it inherits the others. All you have to do is go here, edit the permissions, and then it depends again on your requirement. You want to give them view or modify access. So if you just want to give them view access, you can see here view and modify. So you add them in this group, but if you want to give them modify access as well, you add them in this group. Let's say I want to give them both view and modify. So all I have to do is add my group here. When you change policy, you get this message of activating it. But we'll first finish our setup. And then again, that was only one domain. You want to give them access to their contact information also. But we only want to give them, let's say, view access. So I'll add the group here. Then what else we want to give them access to? So let's say that's it for the contact information. The other things that we want to give them access to is personal information, personal data. So again, we'll follow the same practice. And there are many such domains that we can give them access to. So we'll give them access to the domain which has most of the personal information. Security policy, edit permissions. We don't want to edit them anything. We just want to give them view access. So we'll just add it where the view access is visible. So we'll add the group here. Now you can see here, everyone has added a single row for them. That is not at all required. Probably these are many multiple users who are adding these groups here. So if you have view access, just put them in one bucket, like in one row. For those you have view and modify, put them in another row. That is all that you can, that's a much cleaner setup. Right now, as you can see, there are so many rows here which are not at all required. Trying to find if there are any groups which I previously added, so I'll just remove them. Okay, then let's go back. Let's see what other information is needed. We'll give them worker data benefits information as well, but not to edit. But since, see, this is a administrator group we are adding, so we definitely, it makes sense that we give all of view and modify permission. So we have given quite a few information there. So let's just now run because if I still show you the security group, it will still be blank. It's all blank. Now, as soon as I run the activating the policy, that is when it becomes effective. See, this is the last comment that we added yesterday. All these domains being added. Okay, now it's sorted out. Now you see these domain permissions that came in, and it automatically inherit the child policies as well. So you can understand from here what kind of access a particular security group has. So they have access to this domain, including these domains as well. Sorry, these domain policy, which gives you access to that domain for view and modify. Now this means for view and modify, anything that is view and modify in that particular domain, in these securable actions and securable reporting item. Anything which is view and modify, you have access to it, including the view get as well. But if one of the domain which only has view only access, that means you only have access to the view permissions, not the modify. That is how you understand this is what security you have. So now this is with respect to the domains. So you have view and modify permissions. But let's say if you want to change someone's emergency contact. Okay, so we'll again follow the same practice, but now we'll use the business process policies for function area instead of the domain one. And we'll put in the function area, let's say contact information. And it will give you a list of the business process that are available. So we want this one. So you want to give them access to change the home contact, their legal name. I'll just select a few. Now, based on where you want to give them access, you can change it. I hope you all recall these three sections: who can start the business process, who can do actions on the entire business process, and the third one was who can do actions in the business process. Then again, we do the same thing. You go to the policy and you edit it, and we give access to the security groups that we have. We want to give them access to initiate it, so I'll remove these ones. And then we also want to give them access to change emergency contact through a sub event, like during a hire or an onboarding. And then we want to give them access to approve it as well. So whichever areas of the business process you want to give them access, just add the group there. And then the same way, we'll do it for the home contact. Now, home contact is a folder because within this, you have these other business processes as well. This means that they can be used as a sub-process. And like within this, these can be used as sub-process. So if I'm in case of business process, if we give access to the parent folder, it gives access to all the child policy. But in case of business process, it's not that way because these are independent business process. So if I'm giving access just to home contact, it will only be for home contact, not for your benefits for federal withholding, province withholding, or state and local withholding elections. So just be mindful of that. I want to give them access to review. And when you give some group access to this view all section, which is under the who can do actions on the entire business process, what this access does is when that transaction happens in the system, a row is added in the worker history. So to be able to see that particular row in the worker history, we gave them access to view all. Because if you don't give them access to view all, whatever access you have, you won't be able to see that in worker history for that worker. So let's keep it till this. Now we'll activate our changes. So you can see we only have domain permissions right now. As soon as I make this active, now if I refresh the page, you will also have another tab which gives you your business process permissions. And what this means, how to read it is, you have access to this business process, and these are all the operation, basically all the actions you can do on the process. You can approve it, you can cancel it, initiate it through two different ways, and you can also rescind it. Same way for home contact, you can approve it. Enrichment is also another type of initiation. And then view all means you will be able to see it in the worker history. So this is how security groups get access system. Now let me show you some other user-based groups like some of the work they delivered, security administrator. You can see they have these many domain permissions, these many business process permissions, and sometimes they're also used in different segmented groups or other groups that are created and they're used there. And then these are the members that are added here. Ideally, it will be only a few in your company who will be given access as security administrator because this is like a very powerful security group. So you have to be very careful who you're giving access to. And then another very important group is, and let's look at system monitor. This is again a very, very powerful group. It gives you access to all organization and system setup, operational data regardless of organization. Why? Because it is unconstrained. And again, this is again a very powerful group. Okay. So just wanted to show that this is how your members look like. Unfortunately, we cannot add it in our groups because of the limitation. This is how these are. So this means that Anton Nyberg, or easy name like Charles Bradley, will have access to all these domains and these business processes for everyone in that company, whoever their whichever employee Charles Bradley, whichever company employee Charles Bradley is. This is what that means. So it's like unrestricted, unconstrained. That is why it's given here unconstrained. It applies to all tenant-wide. And when you join a new organization, you will be given access to a lot of administrator groups, which will be unconstrained. Okay, that is the only way you'll be able to do setup. So the next thing that we'll do is a role-based group. Now, role-based by the name itself, it is limited, it's constrained, it's restricted by the role you will be playing. So for example, if you're hired as a recruiter, you'll be hired to do recruiting for a certain area of your system, or sorry, certain region of your company, let's say Europe or Americas or Asia Pacific. You cannot be doing recruiting for all these three regions as one employee. You need different employees to understand the local legislations and what are the policies of that area so that you can cater to those requirements properly. That is why your access is constrained. It can be either limited by an organization or location or anything. Basically, any type of organization, you can assign their role. And this role is called as your assignable role. So recruiter will be an assignable role, which will assign at different organizations to restrict it. So let's say I assign this recruiter role at one of our organization, let's say Velvet Director 2. So that means, and whoever I assign it to, as you can see here, it says assign member. Whoever is, I assign that person as a recruiter for for Velvet director level, they'll only be able to do recruiting for those organizations or the location wherever I'll assign. That is the meaning of role-based group. Now let's put that in perspective of how to do it in the setup. Again, we'll do a create security group. This time we'll select the role-based constraint. There's also a role-based unconstrained, which is used on the similar lines of user-based, but there are very rare scenarios where we'll pick this and not a user-based group. So we'll always work with role-based constraint. Rule-based is not a very common use case, but whenever it's used, it's supposed to be for a complex scenario. So like a recent example I worked on rule-based is restricting access to the HR group, and also VP level and above should not be visible. So combination of these two is done through a rule-based group. So we create a group HR partner. Now in this, we have to do certain extra things in comparison to what we did in user-based. We have to give an assignable role, which will be used and assigned at all organizations. By all, I mean wherever you need that. So for that, we have to create that assignable role using a task called as maintain assignable role. So this is the task that we use. So you click on the plus sign here, do HR partner, and then suffix it with the role, because we ideally keep the name of the group and the role as same. And when you create assignable role, you only have to populate 4 columns. One is the name. The other one is where you are enabling it for. This is where you give the list of organizations. See, these are all Workday organization types. So we can assign it at a company. We can assign it at location hierarchy. Then we can assign it at our supervisory organization. So only if we enable it for these organizations, then only we can assign this role at these organizations. So I've not added cost center because in our demo, I'll show you that why we cannot list it in the cost center, because we have not enabled it. This is the second column. The third is you just have to add is supporting. Even if you do is leader, it won't have any impact on it. But is supporting brings it into the list of support roles, because role-based groups are for support purpose, not for administrators. So it does not really have any relevance here. And the last one is who will be administering these groups, and that will again be your security administrator. That's all. You create your assignable role, you give it a name, you make it where is it enabled for, is supporting, and administered by your security administrator. Save it. Take a few seconds to get saved. The reason I'm able to do this because I'm doing this as Logan McNeil, who is an administrator. A normal user will not have access to do this. So your access to maintain assignable roles come from your security administrator. So right now we all are security administrator. That is why we are able to create security groups. So we have that group ready, a role ready. So we'll put that here. We'll keep all the other things as is. We'll discuss that in a minute. So you have your group with you, but we still don't have any security to it. So what we do is we copy. So if you know that there is a security group which has the same access, just copy the permissions, basically the security access that they have. So we'll copy it from here. I anyway have to change the access from, view modify for this view only, because this is a support group. We don't want to give them access to modify things in the system. But still, I just want to show you that you can create a security group by copying it as well. And I'll use an existing security group because we just created it, just this one. So it will automatically select all of these. It does not select your business process. It only selects your domain permissions. Okay. The alert is basically you have to activate business process. You see, these are all black. So I'll just quickly activate the policy because that is needed after this. Now, if I look at this group, you can see it has those domain permissions, exactly the one that we had earlier. Right? So an easier way to get our security up and running. But I'll only give view access, or let's just keep the access as is because we're not like testing anything here, or like we're not able to test anything because of the limitations. So let's just keep them as is. Now, if I have to give them business process permissions, again, you will follow the same practice. Business process policies for functional areas. Let's say I want to give this access to change jobs. That is something in staffing. Give them access to change job. I want to give them access to create position. Give them access to the hire process. Request reference letter. So we just add a few there. These are under one functional area called as staffing. Like change job itself, if I close the folder, we'll see change job itself is using so many other secure business processes in itself. But this does not necessarily mean that it is using them right now. It means that these are available. So if you want to make any changes, you can do that. But we'll just give them access to. And the difference between a role-based and a user-based is they might have access to the same functional area, same domains, but one will have more of a setup related access, which will be completely modify access. And on the business process, they can rescind, they can approve. But in this case, they'll only have access to initiate it. Job is a big process. They'll only be able to initiate it or review it, but not like approve, cancel, because those are primarily your admin security access. So while I'm here, I'll maybe give them access to see it on the worker history. That's all, not much. You give them access to the hire also, that they should be able to do the hiring or be able to support the team who does the hiring. These are the only permissions we'll give them now. Okay, so we just gave them access to hire and change job. Let's refresh our group. We now have these business process permissions as well. For hire, it's only initiation. For change job, it's two types of initiation. One is through, this is the review job. This is for initiation, and this is for worker history. Now, the setup is still not completed. Now, this security group has all these access, but we still have not assigned it to anyone. In order for us to do that, we have to use this group somewhere. So we'll use it at our Velvet organizations. Let's say I want to give it EX1 that access. So all you have to do is go to the related actions. You will have roles, use the option assign roles, and populate the role that we created, HR partner role. And let's say I want to give it to someone, say Charles Smith. Now, Charles Smith is our HR partner for EX1. You can go to the roles, you can filter it out because there are 320 roles, which is not at all realistic. But since this is a test environment, so just filter out the one that you have. You will see Charles Smith is now assigned at EX1. Now this means, and if you observe something, this organization has subordinates. This means these ones will automatically inherit that. So you go to the roles, go to the kicks, you see inherited because it's coming from your superior EX1. Now, knowing this, if I understand what these are, that will make a lot of sense. So let's understand that. The access right to the organizations. By default, we kept the ones those were default. We did not change it. So if we use the first option, which says apply to current organization only, this means that wherever I'll assign Kicks HR partner, it will only be at that organization. So that means it will only be at EX1, nowhere else. That is where it is assigned. But it is inheriting because we are using the second option, which says applies to current organization, which is already there, and unassigned subordinate. Unassigned subordinate means if anyone in the below organization, in the subordinates, does not have any kicks HR partner, then they will automatically inherit, which we just saw with DevOps. It automatically inherit. But if someone would already be here, who is assigned, not inherited, which means let's say someone was already here and we then assign someone at EX1, that will remain the same. That will not change. If we use this option, applies to current and all subordinates, that means irrespective whether someone is assigned at subordinate or not, it will still change, which happened right now with Charles Smith, that everyone downstream got it. And the last option is if you want to apply it till certain level below the line, which is very, very rarely used. This on the right side is not applicable or it's not in scope because this is for multiple jobs. So you don't have to worry about it. So this is what that means. And ideally, we keep the default one because that supports our setup in most cases. So this is how your role-based group works. I have a visual of it in which I've taken an example of a recruiter. Now, how this works is exactly what we just saw in our demo, is that you created a role-based group recruiter. In our case, we created it as Kicks HR partner. We gave them the permissions and the business process, everything. And we created our role-based assignable role, which is Kicks HR partner. In this case, it's recruiter. And they've assigned it to locations, different locations, or it could be location hierarchies, basically. And in some cases, we have not just assigned it to a location, we have also assigned it to a supervisory organization. So in this case, Jennifer is taking care of US recruiting, Helios is taking care of US, including the executive group. Charles is responsible for Europe, recruiting Linda for UAE, Sunil for Africa. So just another visual to help you get more understanding of the role-based group. Now, like I said, that we enable this role not just for supervisory, we assigned it for location hierarchy and company. So let's do a quick check-in on the location hierarchy. Wow. I don't know who Mowgli SC is, but you're not supposed to add them here. So again, you do the same thing. You do assign roles. You can add your role here. And let's say, give it to someone called as Lewis. Okay, so now Lewis will automatically be inherited downstream into, let's say, location hierarchy USA as well. Filter on the roles. You can see it's inherited. And the same thing we can do at the company also. We have our private limited. Go to roles, assign roles, the same thing. But we cannot do that with our cost center. Well, with CC2, if I go here, go to roles, assign roles, it won't find it because we did not enable this role. We only enabled this role for our company, location hierarchy, and supervisory. That is why we cannot enable it. And that is how we truly restrict the access, whether this role should only be for location hierarchy or for the supervisory organization or for the company or a combination of all. Ideally, we assign role-based groups on supervisory or location hierarchies, not on companies or cost centers. So this is how, and if you join an organization as a support person, that you'll be supporting the system, not from a configuration standpoint, but more from a day-to-day activities, which like running the reports, making sure employees have access to what they need. So you'll be more in a role-based group. But if you're joining the company as a completely techno-functional consultant or highly technical consultant, you'll be given more of an administrative access. So that is how it works.